Hello ladies and gentlemen, I am BorderWise and welcome to the Applique panel update, which is a mini tutorial slash overview video of sorts, where we're going to be talking about one of the newest, well not newest, newer blocks in the game and how it's been changed recently. So this is a bit of a follow-up video to the Armour tutorial of 2 parts that I did some time ago, so if you haven't seen that, you don't strictly need to understand what's going on here, but it would help, so there will be links in the description for those 2 vids, if you've got to spare 2 hours in your life for that. That's all well and good. And, important thing to note is that in those 2 videos, I discussed Applique panels, which, if you don't know, are a block in front of the depths available right here in the build menu, along with just the basic blocks, the structural blocks. Now, I slammed this particular kind of block in those videos because at the time they were completely useless, and there's not much. Well, I say completely useless, they were mostly useless. They had some aesthetic purposes, largely because they were they're small blocks, so they're good for smoothing out edges and slopes and stuff like that. But really, for all practical purpose, they were pretty useless. They have been updated. Rhea, one of the devs, has been asking around the community for how to make these things useful, and I think she's done a reasonably good job now, because these things are way more useful than they were, and we'll get to that, well, right now, actually. So, they're much better now. So, the main thing that's changed is just their stats. They are now cheaper. They still have very low health. There was a brief period where they were just kind of testing out how to make them useful, and they had very, very high health. But now it's, what myself and other people were suggesting is that they have very low health but very high armor. So you can see right here, the 1 meter panel costs 2.25 materials, which is about half that of metal. Very low health, 125 health, armor of 65, which is a higher armor value than heavy armor, and weighs almost nothing. It weighs about as much as an alloy block. And I think with the beams, the full beam has got a weight of 20, so it's the same weight as alloy, so it's not even lighter than alloy anymore. Like, I don't remember whether it was before. I think it was lighter, actually, but there wasn't much point to that since light alloy was already really light anyway. So, yeah, if another reason that you might want to go look at my armor tutorial is that I came up with a formula for structural blocks, and this is important, structural blocks, not armor blocks. There is a slight difference. Basically, armor is what you use to keep your craft alive. Structure is, like, the entirety of your craft. Like, not just how well defended it is, but how well it floats, how well it resists EMP, how it's put together, how cost-effectively it's put together, that kind of thing. So I have a formula for that, which I will put on screen right now, so you can have a look at that. And once again, that's not a perfect formula. I am very much aware of that, possibly because it puts too much emphasis on armor value, so AC, armor class. Because Applique panels now have such very, very high armor values, they are off the chart on that scale. So, it is health plus, the formula is health plus buoyancy plus protective drainage for EMP, minus weight, minus EMP susceptibility, times armor class divided by cost. So, for Applique panels, you've got health of 100, so this is just for the 1 meter block. We should have done that for the 4 meter beam, that would give it a higher score actually. But just for the 1 meter block, so you've got a health of 125. 125 minus a buoyancy of 1.2, plus 5 protective drainage units, minus 5 weight, so the 5 might as well not be there, minus EMP susceptibility, it doesn't have EMP susceptibility, times 65, divided by 2.25, and assuming my math is correct, that puts it at a structural efficiency score of 3,576.44, which is really, really high. It is incredibly high, actually. For reference, stone, so I just put a stone block there. Stone, which was previously the most efficient block simply because it has the highest health to cost ratio, well, the best health to cost ratio of any block in the game. This was previously on top with a score of 1,254.05, so if you run by this formula alone, Applique panels are, well, almost, not quite, almost 3 times as effective, as cost-efficient structurally as stone is, which is wacky. It is off the charts useful. However, there are a few things to note about Applique blocks, and one of them is that in practice, they have very low health. So, if you look at all this, like the only... so wood has more health than Applique panels, so anything that doesn't really care about armor will go straight through Applique panels and won't really care at all about it at all. So, if you've got... And also, one thing to note is that kinetic damage, to prevent it, the health of a block is often more important than the armor class. Armor class certainly helps, but when you've got shells like this is a real monster of a kinetic shell, by the way. When you've got things that can do 40,000 kinetic damage with an armor pierce of 21, 65 armor doesn't do much when you only have, look at the beam, when you only have 500 health to begin with. And the second thing, and this is very important, so here we've got 3 metal beams. I'm going to turn the UI back on, and if I activate my lovely, I love this tool, so you'll see this has a armor class of 15, because that is the armor class for metal. And here's where you might also want to go back and look at the armor tutorial if you don't know already. When you stack blocks together, they get extra armor. So the armor is now just a little bit over 30 because 2 metal blocks stacked together. Basically, the second layer gives an armor bonus to the first layer. So this is armor stacking. And the first layer gives 100% bonus, third layer gives 80%, I think fourth layer gets 60%, something like that. I don't remember the exact numbers. Go watch the armor tutorial, or no, I'll put the math on screen, just so you don't have to watch the whole hour-long thing again, if you don't want to. I should stop talking about videos I've uploaded previously. It might sound like I'm trying to market myself too much. Who wants that? Me, definitely. But probably not you so much. But yeah, so, armor stacking is a thing. So, if we've got this AC of 15 right here, if Applique panels stacked, you would end up with, what's 15 plus 65? You'd end up with an AC of 80. Which is ridiculous. That's like 2 layers of heavy armor. So if we go here, boop, 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 you'll notice that the AC of this metal beam is still 15. This is because Applique panels don't actually count as structural blocks. And this is done for specific reasons, because this would be overpowered as hell. If they stacked, you could stack 4 of these things, and that'd be an armor class of... what would it be? Like 130 just for 2 layers, and then, goodness me, it would be almost 200 AC just from 4 very cheap blocks. It's like, then that would be an absolute nightmare. So they do not have armor stacking, and so for that reason, like, immediately their structural efficiency score should be like cut in half. Like, maybe I should add something like armor stacking yes, no, and it's times 2 if it does, and not if it doesn't. Something like that. But in any case, no armor stacking, and here is where we get to play with that big gun over there. Against most kinds of damage, Applique panels are really terrible armor, and so we are going to demonstrate that right now with a big high explosive shell. So go here, go here, yeah, and I am going to put a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. A big 4-meter slab of metal right there, so. Now we've got our high explosive shell loaded. and you get to see for yourself how much better this is. So, and metal is my yardstick for armor most of the time, by the way, so test this. Big shell. So what's the damage of the shell again? It is about 12,000 kinetic with armor pierce at 2.9, so that's not too important. 6,000 explosive damage. What do we have here? Oh, look at that. The health, this first block is only at 64 health. So, if we go over here again, or rather, let's delete that, so... Eh. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8. And this bug is very irritating. But you can get around it by doing that. Okay, so that's metal, so... 4 meters of metal, a single high explosive round does almost nothing. So let's go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Boop! I want to get it exactly in the middle. So now we've got 4 layers of applique panels, which is less than half the cost of 4 meters of metal. But... so it doesn't do terribly badly considering its low health, but yeah, it's already blown right through that. And given how fast some guns can fire, like 4 meters of applique panels are not very good. So this is... applique panels basically are not a replacement for metal and stone and heavy armor and stuff like that, because that's just not how they work. Lack of armor stacking, low health. It's just not a good time. And you can see here that if you really pile them on, they can kind of be good ablative armor, which is basically armor that's meant to get blown off. But that's not really what they're for, so... 1 shot. 2 shot. 3 shot. It's actually doing less with every shot, that's interesting. It might actually be the kinetic damage that's doing most of the work here. Because that's interesting. You'll see that like that gap is just getting narrower and narrower. So against things like... and this is one of the things that applique panels are good for, is that part of the reason these things exist is so that people can have... for one thing, it's very aerodynamic. So compare this slope here. So the drag is reduced to 0.05 on the front. Compare that with alloy, I believe is drag reduced to 0.1 on the front, so it's got half the drag of alloy. That's part of the reason for these things existing, is to give small craft a structural material to play with. Something cheap, but reasonably tough, that is hard to destroy with timed flak or frag. So, what is it really good for? So, it is good for light craft because it is very light and aerodynamic. That was part of the point. That was actually one of the things it was reasonably good for before. It's better at that now, so good news. It is also a good Spall catcher. So what I mean by that is if you're running, and again, armor tutorials there if you need it. If you're dealing with squash heads, or hesh, rather, you have a problem. And that problem is, well, right now a problem is a bug. Bug. Go away. So if we get our layer of metal again, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And if we just stick a layer of wood right here, I forgot to put on mirror mode. That's okay. Actually, will a hesh shell even get through that? I don't even know. So if we go here. HE head, zoop, 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 and squash head. So this is a squash head. It does thump damage, it makes lots of little fragments, and basically if you just have something like this, so if you have solid blocks of armor, and then nothing, like past the armor there's nothing but squishy bits, as represented by the wood, what happens when you get hesh thrown at you is this. So you see that these blocks right here took a bit of damage. The 2-meter gap right here helped a lot, as did the fact that some of the fragments just spiraled off top. But still, this is kind of what happens when you don't have good Spall liner. However, Spall liner is basically this, so I'm reiterating myself. I don't know, if I'm repeating myself from the original Armour tutorial, I'm sorry, but this is helpful for... I'll get back to Applique in a minute. So, the fragments that Hesh spawns has double the armor value of whatever block it spawns from. So from metal, it would be have an armor penetration of 30. From wood, it would be an armor penetration of 6. So, do that. Whoop. Why did that do more damage? I hate how the game does that. That was really... I'm so confused. I'm so confused. What the hell? What? That can't be right. What? What? Bear with me. What the hell? That's gotta be a bug. That's gotta be a bug. How does... What? What? I'm speechless. What the hell is going on? What the hell is... Oh... No? I don't understand what's happening right now. Anyway, so what I was going to say is that Applique panels make good Spall catches, but not Spall liners, so... I don't know what's going wrong here. I don't understand how that... What? I've been up for 13 hours straight, like, I don't even know if I should be recording right now. No, positive attitude. So, Applique panels. They don't make good Spall liners, they make good Spall catches, so right here, assuming this works. Yeah, incidentally, if you want an air gap in your ship, a big air gap works better than a small air gap. Let's see if this works. Actually, since the wood got absolutely melted by wood, let's see what happens here. I don't understand what happened right there. That makes no sense with the way that, like, Hesh works. So you'll notice there that, what the hell happened? That, none of these things got damaged at all. In fact, well, they did get damaged. So this one, this middle one right here, right at the center of the Hesh, 82% damage. That's great, actually. So these things are very good as a final line of defense when you don't have room for multiple layers of armor. Simply because if fragments do get through, it's just good for... It's just good for stopping that just last definite little fragment that will take out your AI, which is very nice. They don't make good Spall liner though, because Hesh fragments do spawn from them, even though they don't count as structural blocks. And because they have such high armor value, let's demonstrate that with a layer of metal back here. So if we do that, will the metal survive this? Metal did not survive that very well at all, so... yeah. That is not good. 2 shots and this, whatever's on the inside here will get destroyed. So, Spall liner, not good, and just for comparison, let's put another layer of metal in here. So most damage block was 34. And most damage block was 79. So, yeah, don't try and use Applique Spall liner, it won't work. However, it is a good Spall catcher, and this is possibly the most important thing it does, it's good at catching heat shells. So, one thing that note about its ability as Spall catcher is that it doesn't work so well against heat when you arrange it like this. So, it's got very high AC, but so do heat shells. And by heat shell, I mean this. So, shape charge head, set this to maximum penetration. I've never remember how this penetration metric works. I know that for penetration metric of 44, can get through a lot of metal and a few layers of heavy armor, and it's got a lot of particulates, so this makes a real mess of anything that's really compact that doesn't have good spaced armor. So if you fire a heat shell like this at it, you'll notice that this inner layer of Applique does absolutely nothing. That is because when those heat particles get through, they do a lot of damage these days. But if you arrange Applique panels like this, so if they're the absolute final layer of a segment of armor, and let's just do this, get it all repaired, yes. Set that to 3 so you can see. No, ladies and gentlemen, your eyes did not deceive you. Let's try that again. No, I don't know how Applique panels do this, or even if they're really meant to do this, if this is intentional or not, it might be, but they completely stop heat streams. They completely stop it. They take some damage from it, so you can see right here, this Applique panel is about at 85% health, and that is because, if you look here, where is it? So heat loss from 1 meter of heat penetration is 0%. It's like it stops heat streams dead, absolutely dead, and it doesn't matter how thick this front bit of armor is either. So if we go here, we cut all this off. Is the bug gonna happen? Yes. No, it isn't. Great. Just make sure all our blocks are full health again. Woo! I wonder what will happen. I wonder, I do. I wonder, I wonder, I wonder. No! Holy crap! So, Applique panels are... This is a special property that I think they were meant to have before, and now they finally do have it. They are a hard counter to heat, which is a good thing, because heat, as of right now, is a very, very powerful mechanic. So yeah, like, it's used good for that as well. And also, from what I understand, is the repair cost of this thing is like, they're almost free to repair. You can see the tiny, tiny text right down at the bottom there. Repairing this one panel of Applique panel costs 0.675 materials. And you get 0.675 materials if destroyed in combat. So, this is excellent ablative armor. If it gets destroyed, it's not an issue at all. You get, like, repairing it is almost free. And you get money back if it gets destroyed. So compare that with metal, which doesn't have that special property, or, like, anything else, really. This is a very, very... It's a weird block, but it's very, very strong. And it means that an arrangement something like this... And 4 more of those. An arrangement something like this is a very, very good armor scheme. This is just an example because multiple layers of metal just for armor stacking. That layer of stone right there is just proof against kinetics. Because I believe... Yeah, it's just a cheap stop against big kinetic shells because remember, it's got good health to cost ratio. The Applique panel stop here, stop heat. The wood here acts as Spall liner and flotation. And these Applique panels act as Spall catcher. Alright? And also the stone stops EMP. So this I think would be a very good armor scheme. And let's just test that right now. So, go here. We have our... What's this? That's the big heat shell. So that doesn't get through at all. And normally, like, a shell like this, I think this can get through 5, 6, 7... I think, yeah, 8 meters of metal with no problem whatsoever. It might actually 8 might be a bit much, but it could get through a lot of metal and heavy armor as well. So now let's try the squash head. So yeah, 1 block lost. Nothing happened back here. Barely any health lost on the Applique panels. And just the thump damage managed to take out 1 metal block, but that's pretty much it. Okay, so that works very well. And now, let's try our monster kinetic round again, and see how well it does. This is a stupidly strong one, though. So, this might still get all the way through. So, where is it? Saber warhead body. And, by the way, you are not likely to run into this kind of round in... I don't think in tournaments, not in the campaigns or anything like this, because this is, despite the really big numbers on here, can I add a base bleeder? Ooh, I can. Despite the really big numbers here, this is not a very efficient shell. It's countered by shields too much, and punching straight through a target, it only works if the target is compact and has no shields at all. So let's try that. See how well that manages to get through. It might still punch all the way through. Let's see. Yep, it does. Let's try a slightly less insane kinetic round and see how we do. Look at me waffling. Oh, look at that! Well, this is literally half the power of the first one, so... Yeah, not nearly as strong. But yeah! This works really well. Let's try a... What's another thing we can try? Nah, I think that... Ah, no. Let's do a big hollow point round. So, solid... And... hollow point... And 1 barrel. So this is the thump damage test. Let's see how far this gets through. Not that far. Not that far at all. Look at that. And this is one of the benefits of using vertical beams, by the way, is just because this is a very narrow hole made right here. Yep. Yeah, so, like, this is an example of... This is very thick armor, by the way, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 air gap Applique panels. But yeah, just for the fact that it counters heat alone, I think Applique panels are now very, very good. And pound for pound, they're stronger and cheaper than metal, so if you're making anything that is only gonna have not much armor anyway, or you want it super light or a dynamic, or if you just want a cheap Spall catcher, or just a layer in your armor that stops shape charges completely, Applique panels are the thing to go for. So, that is my admittedly not as brief as I would like update on Applique panels and how they are amazing right now. Thank you, Rhea, for making them so cool now. Also decent decoration and all that stuff. So, thank you all so much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and I will see you next time in From the Depths. Farewell!